Purport by Srila Prabhupada. An ideal husband and wife are generally called Lakshmi Narayana, to compare them to the Lord and the goddess of fortune, for it is significant that Lakshmi Narayana are forever happy as husband and wife. A wife should always remain satisfied with her husband, and a husband should always remain satisfied with his wife. In the Chanakya Shloka, the moral instructions of Chanakya Pandit, it is said that if a husband and wife are always satisfied with one another, then the goddess of fortune automatically comes. In other words, where there is no disagreement between husband and wife, all material opulence is present and good children are born. Generally, according to Vedic civilization, the wife is trained to be satisfied in all conditions. And the husband, according to Vedic instruction, is required to please the wife with sufficient food, ornaments, and clothing. Then, if they are satisfied with their mutual dealings, good children are born. In this way, the entire world can become peaceful. But unfortunately, in this age of Kali, there are no ideal husbands and wives. Therefore, unwanted children are produced, and there is no peace and prosperity in the present day world. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. So this chapter is describing the genealogy of the different Prajapatis. The beginning of the creation is that Brahma is born, and Brahma himself is also called Prajapati. Before that, even Vishnu is called Prajapati. The Bhagavad Gita, which is the verse which refers to Vishnu as Prajapati? Purovacha Prajapatihi. Does somebody remember the verse? Sahayagnya praja srishtva purovacha prajapatihi anena prasavishyadvam eshavo svishta kamaduk. So, in the beginning of creation, the Lord of all creatures, that is Vishnu, he is the maintainer. So, he has created this world in such a way that the created beings can be happy and can have all their necessities amply supplied by performance of yajna. And that yajna also is the enjoyer of all such sacrifices or yajna performances is the Lord himself, is Vishnu himself. So another name for Vishnu is yajna. That yajna, the Lord of all sacrifices, Yajushampati, has appeared as the son of Prajapati Ruchi and the daughter of Swayambhuva Manu, Akuti. So, the Lord himself is Prajapati, and he, as the second Vishnu expansion in this world, in the beginning of the creation, there are 3 Purusa avataras. They are the first 3 incarnations in this material world at the beginning of creation. They are called Purusa avataras. The incarnation of the Supreme Person himself. He himself appears as incarnation, Purusha. So, he is the first Vishnu, is the Vishnu who is the super soul who enters into the material energy which is lying dormant, and he activates that material energy simply by his entering into the material energy. And as soon as he enters into the material energy, first thing is there is the Karana ocean. Karana ocean, the source of the creation itself, of the universes. When he enters into the material energy is inactive, dormant. Even the living entities are inactive and dormant condition. They are as if they are sleeping condition. So they are all awaiting the Lord's activating them, both the material energy and the living entities, the conditioned souls. From the previous dissolution, during the previous dissolution, all the living entities were, first of all, absorbed in the body of Mahavishnu. If you remember the description in the earlier cantos. So at the end of the duration of this universe, Mahavishnu actually absorbs within himself all the living entities who are still conditioned, who had been given a chance to get out of this material world, but who did not successfully get out because they still have material desires. So they have to take birth again, but they have to wait. They'd wait for as long a duration of time as the duration of the universe itself. So that period, first of all, Mahavishnu absorbs all the living entities who are conditioned souls into himself, and he also absorbs the material energy in a very, very subtle form called pradhana. Material energy in its active form is called mahattattva, but in its inactive form it's called pradhana. So pradhana means no activity. It is the inactive state of the material energy. So then after absorbing, Mahavishnu disappears. He disappears. That's why we say incarnation. Incarnation means appears and disappears. So eternally the Lord is always in the spiritual world. That's why in the spiritual world we don't say incarnation. But in the material world, always the Lord appears and disappears. So Mahavishnu disappears. Then where are the living entities, the conditioned souls, and the material energy in its dormant condition? They're simply in the one corner of the spiritual sky. That's why they're said to be situated in Brahman, in the Brahman effulgence, in the Brahma Jyoti. It described one corner of the spiritual sky. This whole material creation is assembled. This is the description given by Prabhupada in the first canto, third chapter. So, first of all, in the beginning of creation, there is the incarnation of the Lord as Mahavishnu. So he appears and disappears, cyclically. Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu is an incarnation of? Whose incarnation is he? Sankarshana. Specifically, Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has nothing to do. He has nothing to do other than enjoy loving pastimes with his eternal devotees, with his eternal associates. So, for the purposes, other purposes, he expands. So, he expands as Balaram for his own pastimes in Goloka Vrindavana. Then Balaram expands further as Chaturvyuha. The first Chaturvyuha. There are two Chaturvyuha expansions in the spiritual world. The first Chaturvyuha expansion is the expansions of Balaram, direct expansion of Balaram as Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then this Sankarshana expands as Narayana, as the predominating deity of each Vaikuntha planet, because there are many, many Vaikuntha planets. Goloka Vrindavana is one planet where the Supreme Lord in his forms as Krishna and Balaram, they are engaged in eternal pastimes with their devotees. In Vrindavan, Dham, in Mathura Dham and Dwarka Dham, Krishna and Balaram are engaged in their pastimes. So we say Goloka Vrindavana, but there are three divisions in Goloka Vrindavana in the spiritual world. Vrindavan, Dham, Mathura Dham and Dwarka Dham. All three places Krishna is present as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but he is playing different roles in his pastimes. In Vrindavan, he presents himself as, he is present as the original personality of Godhead as a covered boy. In Mathura, he is a prince, like a prince. He is performing his Leela. And in Dwaraka, as a king, he is performing his Leela. So these pastimes are eternally going on in the spiritual world. A replica of those pastimes are displayed, demonstrated by Krishna when he comes to this world, when he incarnates in this world. So this incarnation of Krishna is slightly different from other incarnations. This incarnation of Krishna, he comes in his original form in which he is situated in the spiritual world. Generally, incarnations are forms assumed by the Lord for particular purposes in this material world. But the incarnation of Krishna and Balaram is the original form of the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. Even the incarnations of Rama, Lakshmana, Bharata, Shatrughna, they are human-like forms of Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna and Aniruddha in the spiritual world. So, no other incarnation can be said to be the original form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the spiritual world, except the incarnation of Krishna. So that's why you find the special verse in the Bhagavatam, first canto, third chapter. Ete chamsha kala pumsaha Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. He is Swayam Bhagavan. He is the original. He himself is the Supreme Personality of God. He has not assumed a form for the sake of pastimes, for the sake of this material world. No. He is not assuming a form. He is coming in his original form. Whereas all other personalities appearing as incarnations are different forms assumed for specific purposes. Every other form. Every other form. So, this incarnation of Mahavishnu, Narayana, the expansion of the first Sankarshana, further expands into second Chaturvyuha, Vasudeva, Sankarshana, Pradyumna, Aniruddha. Then that second Sankarshana expands or incarnates as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation in this material world. Even before the creation can begin, the beginning itself is Mahavishnu. So the beginning of creation is the appearance of Mahavishnu. And then Mahavishnu, he first of all generates this ocean called Karana ocean. Karanodaka. Udaka means water. So this Karanodaka is actually the source of the entire material creation, that so many universes appear out of the skin holes, bodily pores of Mahavishnu. But they appear like bubbles in the ocean. Bubbles in the ocean, like that they appear. Of course, they are all universes in the seed form. They are not fully developed when they appear immediately. But for further development, Mahavishnu expands into so many different forms of the second Vishnu. Second Vishnu. The Mahavishnu's expansion as second Vishnu enters into each universe in its seed-like form, and then the universe begins to develop. So all development, all activity, everything begins with the Supreme Lord entering. Therefore, one of the meanings of the word Vishnu means he who enters. Vishnu means one who enters. So the first Vishnu enters into the material energy, dormant material energy. The second Vishnu enters into each universe. Therefore, Prabhupada describes Vishnu as super soul is present as a super soul of the entire material energy in the form of Mahavishnu, as a super soul of each universe as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. Garbhodakashayi Vishnu. And as the super soul of every living entity, he is present as Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, a form of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu called Paramatma. Enters into the heart of every living entity and every atom. So, these three incarnations are the first incarnations, first Purusa incarnations. First incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So, they appear in this world in a four-handed form. In a four-handed form, which resembles one of the forms of the Narayana form. Again, the Narayana form in the Vaikuntha planets, there are 24 different forms of Narayana. They are differently named according to the position of the symbols, four symbols. Narayana is holding four symbols, Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma. According to the position of these four symbols, Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, Govinda, Madhusudana, Trivikrama. Like that, there are 24 forms, 24 names, 24 personalities in the Vaikuntha planets. So, the Paramatma or the form of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu or Kshirodakashayi Vishnu resembles one of the forms of this Narayana. But all the three forms of Vishnu are lying down on another expansion called Sheshanag. Sheshanag. In the material world, Vishnu as the Purushavatara is lying down. Therefore, he is also called Shayi. Shayana. He is in the Shayana pose. Karanodakashayi Vishnu, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. He is lying down. So, for his lying down, the expansion of the various expansions of Balaram, one of the expansions is called Sheshanag. He is present as the bed on which Vishnu is lying down in his different forms. So there is one form of Karanodakashayi Vishnu, and then there are as many forms of Garbhodakashayi Vishnu as there are universes. There are millions and billions and trillions of universes. And then there are as many forms of this Paramatma. That's again considered an expansion of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu. Even though an expansion of Kshirodakashayi Vishnu, still the Shastras describe him as the maintainer Vishnu. He maintains by having a particular planet in this universe of his own called as Shweta Dvipa. In that Shweta Dvipa, the maintainer Vishnu, since Lakshmi and Narayana are eternal husband and wife, so later on, Yajna, the son born of Prajapati Ruchi, who was raised as the son of Swayambhuva Manu, that son of Swayambhuva Manu, Yajna, married the daughter of Prajapati Ruchi, because they are eternally husband and wife. So it's described here that the daughter Dakshina, she desired to marry Yajna. That's because they are eternally husband and wife. And they also had 12 children. The Lord's pastimes in this world many times appears like ordinary activities of ordinary persons of this world. So it's very difficult to recognize the incarnation of the Supreme Lord simply by observing the form or observing the activities. It's not very much easy to identify, here is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who's incarnated as so and so. Not possible. But there are specific ways in which an incarnation can be identified. First of all, to identify an incarnation requires that somebody who is an authority in the Vedic knowledge, they are the proper persons to identify an incarnation. Others cannot. So, the authorities in Vedic wisdom, they identify by so many ways. One is the horoscope, the birth chart of the incarnation, of the appearance of the Supreme Lord in a particular form. Itself is a specific birth chart. It's called Narayana Jataka. A learned astrologer, by studying the horoscope, can actually, if he is sufficiently knowledgeable, can identify this particular horoscope belongs to someone who is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord, who has appeared as the son or of so and so. Just like when Krishna was born, Garga Muni identified and told Nanda Maharaj, your son is actually the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was born, Nilambara Chakravarti identified Chaitanya as an incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So that is the first way of identifying an incarnation. Secondly, the palms of the hand and the soles of the feet will have special marks. Generally, there are no special marks on anybody's palm. But only the Supreme Lord's incarnation will have specific marks. And those marks also are specific to specific incarnations. It's not the same. There are specific symbols. So in Vrindavan, when Krishna used to traverse the soft earth, this sandy bank of the river, or the soft clay, which is generally all over the Brajabhumi, then Krishna's footprints used to have those symbols, specific, a flag, a thunderbolt, a lotus, an instrument for controlling the elephants, Ankusha, like that, specific marks. So the Brajavasis, when they walk, they will not disturb Krishna's footprints. They will not disturb Krishna's footprints. That is how, when Krishna actually was in the grip of Kaliya, Krishna actually is performing the Leela of Kaliya Damana. But apparently in the beginning, Kaliya actually held Krishna in his grip for some time. That time there were so many inauspicious omens. And those inauspicious omens gave an indication to Nanda and Yashoda that there is some danger. And Nanda Maharaj had already experienced few demons coming and trying to give trouble to Krishna. Krishna somehow escaped the attack of some demons, like Putana, Trinavarta. So Nanda Maharaj, he became very anxious. Where is Krishna? So somebody told Nanda Maharaj that Krishna has gone to with the cowherd boys cow herding without Balaram. So Nanda, Yashoda, Balaram, all of them, they came searching for Krishna when they saw inauspicious woman. How did they come? They followed the footprints of Krishna. So how could they follow the footprints of Krishna? It is described by the Acharyas. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that the footprints of Krishna, the Brajavasis would never disturb. Never disturb. So Krishna had gone, the trail was left behind, and Nanda Maharaj, Yashoda, and Balaram, everybody followed that footprints and reached that spot where Krishna was in that lake by the Yamuna, where that Kaliya Damana happened. So, the specific marks on the palm or the feet. Then the third way of identifying is, the scriptures declare the Supreme Lord's appearance in the form of a particular incarnation. The Shastra themselves declare. So learned scholars in the scriptures who know about the various incarnations, just like in the Bhagavatam, the incarnation of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described by Karabhajana Rishi to one king, when he's describing the incarnations of the Supreme Lord in different yugas. He described Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the incarnation for Kali Yuga. Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagnai Sankirtana Prayir Yajantihi Sumedasaha. So, in describing the different incarnations, the different yugas for Kali Yuga, he describes this incarnation of Krishna in Kali Yuga is always Krishna Varnam. He is always glorifying Krishna, is chanting Krishna's name. Tvisha Akrishnam, but his complexion is not blackish. So he is golden complexioned, yellow complexion. And Yagnai Sankirtana Prayir. He is performing Sankirtana Yajna. Yajantihi Sumedasa. And intelligent persons, they worship him by performance of the Sankirtana Yajna. So, like that, the scriptures also describe the incarnation. The scriptures describe the incarnations of the Supreme Lord. Always there's a reference to the incarnation in the Shastras. Just like in the Bhagavatam, it is foretold about the incarnation of Buddha in the future. the Lord will appear as Buddha. Suta Goswami is describing the incarnation of the Supreme Lord to the sages of Naimisharanya. He is listing 22 incarnations specifically, and then he is telling there are innumerable incarnations of the Supreme Lord, as many as there are waves in the ocean. Can somebody count the number of waves in the ocean? No. So he says there are unlimited incarnations of Supreme Lord appearing at different times. So he just lists prominent 22 incarnations. Similarly, Jayadev Goswami, in the beginning of Gita Govinda, as an invocation, he has composed one Dashavatara Stotra. 10 incarnations of the Supreme Lord. Sometimes people think there are only 10 incarnations. No. He is listing 10 prominent pastime incarnations of the Supreme Lord. Leela Avatara. Leela Avatara. So, he is just listing 10 prominent incarnations. That's all. So, like that, the scriptures describe the incarnations. Then, there are extraordinary activities performed by each incarnation, which is not possible to be performed by any other devata, any other yogi, any other jnani, tapasvi. Nobody can do that. Nobody can do it. These are the activities which are different from the activities of the Lord, which resemble the activity of ordinary human beings. It's like Krishna playing with some cowherd boys. So many children play with other children. And children are always very dear to the parents. They look very cute in the eyes of the parents and in people in general. So Krishna also appeared like very, very lovable, very cute boy, cowherd boy of Nanda and Yashoda, playing with other cowherd boys. But certain other activities which are unique to the incarnation, those are described also in the Shastra, and those are identified by great authorities, great sages. When the Supreme Lord appeared as Varaha, nobody could make out, here is an incarnation of the Supreme Lord in the form of a boar. But when Lord Varaha roared, then that roaring was identified as the sound, the transcendental sound produced by the Supreme Lord. Then the sages who identified that sound as the transcendental sound vibration of the Supreme Lord, they began to offer the Vedic hymns as prayers to the Supreme Lord in his incarnation as Varaha. Then Varaha responded back confirming, yes, your prayers are meant for me as the Supreme Lord. And he roared back again. So this is the way. Krishna, when he lifts the Govardhan hill, the lifting of the Govardhan hill itself is not an extraordinary activity performed by Krishna. No. In fact, the Govardhan hill, the present place where the Govardhan hill is located in Braja Mandal, it was before in the foothills of the Himalayas. It was moved by one yogi to its present place. So lifting Govardhan hill is not the uniqueness of Krishna's pastime of lifting Govardhan hill. No. It is Krishna lifting the Govardhan hill under the conditions, particular conditions. Indra, when he felt offended that the Brajavasis are not offering him sacrifice, he sent Samvartaka clouds to devastate Vrindavan. Samvartaka clouds are employed by Indra for partial devastation of the universe. What is the power of Samvartaka cloud? To pour down rain, to submerge the middle and lower planetary systems with water. That is the power of Samvartaka cloud. So against the clouds, Samvartaka clouds pouring down rain, Krishna held up Govardhan hill. At the time of partial devastation, can you call some yogi and say, so much rain, please hold up some mountain and protect us? The yogi cannot protect himself. Forget about protecting others. Krishna protected all the Brajavasis against Samvartaka rain. Devastating rainfall in Vrindavan. That's the title of the chapter if you read carefully. What does it say? Devastating rainfall in Vrindavan. Secondly, the Brajavasi, 7 days Krishna was holding. Not for little time. Generally rains fall and then it clears off. Sometimes there is no break, but maybe 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. But 7 days continuously the rain was pouring down and the Brajavasis were safe under the Govardhan hill. But 7 days Krishna told them, you will not be disturbed by hunger, thirst, fatigue, sleep, nothing. Can any yogi do that? Any devata do that? The yogi himself, by his mystic power, he may remain without some food, water. He can remain. But he cannot make others immune for some length of time. Not possible. No yogi can do that. So, if you carefully study Krishna's pastimes, especially those described in the Bhagavatam, you will recognize Krishna's supremacy as the Supreme Personality of God, as the incarnation of the Supreme Lord. Not anybody is doing some using mystic power and displaying some so-called miracle and we say he's God. No. These are very, very, very unique. So study Bhagavatam very carefully. Matsyavatara. It's described in the 8th canto, I think. 8th canto. Kurmavatara. Narsimhavatara. Sometimes demons can also appear in some strange form, half man, half lion. So that appearance is half man, half lion is not the uniqueness of Narsimhavatara. No. It is specifically certain activities Narsimha performed. That you have to carefully study in the Bhagavatam. There's a detailed description in the Bhagavatam. So, these activities, extraordinary activities. So, the Lord always performs two kinds of activities. Those which are ideal to be followed by everyone else, and those other special pastime-like activities which cannot be imitated by anybody, which should not be imitated by anybody. Should not be. Krishna performing rasa dance should not be imitated. But Krishna living like an ideal householder in Dwaraka, that is to be followed. So Prabhupada explains in one of the chapters of the Krishna book, Lord Krishna's daily activities. So there he lists certain activities which Krishna performed, which is to be followed by other grihasthas. Krishna's ideal grihastha life. Similarly, here Prabhupada is telling ideal husband and wife are generally called Lakshmi Narayana to compare them with the Lord and the Goddess of Fortune. So, ideal husband and wife, how they should live, the example is set by the Lord in his some of his incarnations. Sita and Rama, Rukmini and Krishna, Dakshina and Yajna. Ideal husband and wife. So the Lord's activities are always of two kinds. Some are meant to be followed and some are not possible to be imitated or followed, and one should not attempt to imitate the Lord. especially in his rasa dance, in his lifting Govardhan hill, cannot be imitated and should not be imitated. So I'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.